This is a regular scheduled meeting of the Franklin Township Environmental Commission in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231. Adequate notice of this meeting has been posted. Roll call. Razi, Sil McAvoy. Here. Diane Podesky. Robin Sedan. Arnold Smith.
Here.
Stan.
Garage, yes.
Walter Andrews, I'm here. Paul Walensky.
Yep, I'm here.
And Jessica Johnson. And
I'm here.
okay, and Ted Chase.
Here.
All right, I got everybody, right?
I'm putting
real quick.
Reswan down as excused since they
We do?
told us ahead of time that they wouldn't be attending.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, sorry. Chair report, there isn't anything. I saw the notice.
Don't you have to read the public notice paragraph?
Public notice?
I'm going to share my screen so we can look at it.
He did read it, Paul.
Okay, I didn't hear it.
The Sunshine Law. Yeah.
The Sunshine Law.
All right. And you answered, anyway, nevertheless, in terms of the chair report, no, nothing major. I saw that it looks like we are going to have Franklin Day on the 12th of September. So, that was sort of iffy. That means that we have a certain number of things that we have to start getting in place. So we have adequate time to do that. And so I guess that's good news. Curious as to how they're going to manage this thing, and everybody have to wear a mask, I guess, but we'll see. All right.
Well, that also speaks to the conversation that Seal and I were having, where if cases rise again, that may change.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. Because of the 6-1 minutes, I understand there were some corrections needed. Stan had some, and I think it was it Robin who said she found some typos? Ted, were you able to catch those, or do we need to wait and approve those at the next meeting?
I haven't had any response. I mean, nobody told me there were problems with the minutes.
Okay, well, why don't we forego approval of the 6-1 minutes, and we'll make sure you get the information, and then we'll try to do this meeting and the 6-1 at the next meeting. Which I believe is July 6th, is it? Or something like that.
For the record, I just wanted to let you know that I was fine with it.
Wow, that's fantastic. All right, so we're going to move the agenda down to new business, and we're going to have Matt come to us. Matt sent me a short bio, and I just want to share it with you. Matt Smith is the New Jersey Director for Food and Water Action, a nonprofit organization working for equitable access to clean drinking water and livable climate future for all. Matt is an experienced campaigner and organizing manager. His work focuses on protecting locally controlled and affordable public water systems, stopping the expansion of new pipeline, power plants, and other fossil fuel infrastructure, and enacting policies that facilitate a rapid and fair transition to a 100% renewable economy. In addition to his work with Food and Water Action, Matt sits on the steering committee of the New Jersey Poor People's Campaign and Empower New Jersey Coalition. He is also a member of the FANG Collective, you have to explain that one, linking popular movements for environmental, economic, and racial justice. Matt can be found in his days off enjoying New Jersey's parks, wild places, and so many have fought to preserve and protect. So thank you, Matt. And with that, we're going to have you come. So Jessica, you have it from now, and let's have Matt come. Thank you, Matt, for coming.
Matt, I've made you a presenter, so if you go to the bottom of your screen, you'll see, there you go.
everyone for having me. I'll try to be as direct as possible here and just get to the content of the presentation, which I'm sure is of most interest. But as Walter said, I am Matt Smith with Food and Water Watch, Food and Water Action. We've been active here in Central Jersey. Our office is in New Brunswick for the past about 12 years now, 12, 13 years, and have worked with Linda Powell and Mayor Kramer on a wide range of issues, everything from fighting the proposed gas-fired compressor station that threatened the air quality, health, and safety of Franklin residents to working to keep Franklin's drinking water under public control. So it's great to be virtually back with Franklin and sharing one of the latest things we're working on, which is community choice aggregation or real action for local clean energy. Just a little bit of context around New Jersey's electricity basics. So right now, residents in New Jersey get our electricity from, it's less than 5% comes from renewables today. The majority comes from natural gas and nuclear, each making up slightly less than half of our current electricity profile. Additional solar and wind are coming online quickly. Governor Murphy made history by signing an ambitious executive order to have the nation, what will be the nation's largest offshore wind farm off the coast of the Jersey Shore, and in total calling for over 3,000 megawatts of new offshore wind, or enough to power 1.2 million homes by the year 2030. So New Jersey is definitely moving towards 100% renewables, especially for electricity. It's widely viewed that of the transition to a 100% renewable economy, that electricity is the easiest part of the equation. The transportation sector and the fuels and heating sector are a little bit more complicated. There's still some questions to address, but we have the technology today to go to 100% renewable electricity, and we have the ability to do it cost effectively, economically, which I'll talk a little bit more about. So one of the tools in our toolkit is community choice aggregation. The concept is actually quite simple. It's been allowed in New Jersey since the 2003 Government Energy Aggregation Act. Basically, it just empowers municipal or county governments to pool their residential ratepayer resources and go out to bid in the open market for cheaper electricity prices. And more frequently, towns and counties are choosing not only cheaper energy, but choosing a much higher percentage of renewable energy than the standard rate of renewables from the utility, in this case, PSE&G. So really, it's almost like going to Costco. When you buy 100 bags of chips, you get a better rate per bag of chip than you would going to the 7-Eleven and getting a bag of chips. It's a similar economies of scale, although multiplied over tens of thousands of eligible residents, depending on the size of the community. And in New Jersey and in most of the country, the electricity market is segmented into three distinct markets. You have generation, or the production of power. You have transmission, to get from the place of production to the general market where it's being consumed. And then you have distribution, which is not the big utility lines that we'll see through utility quarters, but is the phone pole lines that we'll see on our streets and that bring the electrons right into our home. So under community choice aggregation, the only thing that's changing is the energy generator. The transmission lines, the distribution, the service, the billing, that all stays with the utility. This is just allowing communities to pull their money together and choose a different source of the energy, both for cost savings as well as to source cleaner forms of energy. And even when you do community choice aggregation, residential customers can still opt out. No one can be forced to choose cleaner or cheaper electricity if they really choose not to. And commercial customers have the ability to opt in. And as I mentioned, yeah, the billing stays the same. The wires and utility lines stay the same. Service, you ever have an issue with power, it's still the utility in the region that would come out and provide that service. It's just that source of the electricity that we're changing. And with our model ordinance initiating legislation, we've set a timetable to get to 100% renewable by 2030. Basically, right now, the state standard is going to increase to 50% next year, which is a big, excuse me, not 50%, 21% by 2021. And then the state gets to 100% renewable by 2050. Unfortunately, I mean, that's good, but it, and that's economy wide. So it's not just for electricity. The New Jersey's Energy Master Plan charts a path to get to 100% clean energy for electricity, heating, and transportation by 2050. But electricity being the easiest part of the puzzle to fix, and sort of the urgency that we're facing here in New Jersey with, New Jersey saw the fastest level of sea level rise in the entire country. We saw the highest average warming temperature increases across the country. New Jersey is also extremely densely populated. And with the amount of industry and auto transportation and airports, we have some of the worst air quality in the country. Middlesex County in the 2020 American Lung Association report found that Middlesex, Bergen, Essex, Hudson, Union all received F grades for ground level ozone pollution. Bergen topped the list 26 days where it was unhealthy air conditions or air quality, typically in the summer, and typically most vulnerable are elderly, young people with pre-existing conditions. But our air pollution is a big toll on our society. It leads to more emergency room visits. We have some of the highest asthma rates in the country. Chronic lung disease, a whole range of diseases and public health costs associated with bad air quality. A lot of it comes from the continued burning of fossil fuels for energy. So clean energy aggregation or community choice aggregation with the time scale to get to 100% renewables allows for us to immediately start cleaning up our air pollution, immediately start to mitigate climate change. And with the phase-in approach, it maintains energy affordability. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail in just a moment. So we kind of talked about this, why 100%, for everyone by 2030. We talked about air quality and the impacts from climate change and how CCA is really a practical, impactful way to address these major problems that New Jersey is particularly vulnerable to. But of course, economics is still critical. We recognize that. It's why we structured it on the timeline we did. We felt like going to 100% renewables in year one could mean that the price of the energy aggregation option would actually be more expensive than PSE&G's default rate, and therefore, you might get some people who'd be willing to pay a little extra to go to clean energy, but by and large, people are still managing their household off of, what makes sense financially and the bottom line. And so with the phase-in approach, we've seen that not only can we get higher percentages of renewable energy, but we can save money. So New Brunswick was the first city to implement the ordinance and program based on our model legislation. That's where I live. We've gotten a reduction. We're saving about $100 per year on our electricity bills. That's an average per household, while we're getting 50% renewable energy. And there's an opt-up rate to 100%. So any residents like I know my house is doing is opting up to 100, and it's still coming in cheaper than the PSE&G rate. not by much. You're not gonna buy a luxury car or go on a fancy vacation with the savings. The key for us is coming in at or under the PSE&G rate, because as long as we're not increasing rates, and maybe we're saving a little money while we're dramatically transitioning, to cleaner sources of energy and providing all the other benefits that come along with that, we think that this is a winning program. Livingston went in year one right away to 100% clean energy, and they're still saving 10% versus their standard PSE&G rate. There was a cooperative of towns, 6 towns in Essex County, that are at 40% clean energy and saving 10 to 15%. And Glen Rock also went to 100% renewables, and they got a better rate than the standard PSE&G rate. And more and more towns are considering this. Just in the past 2 weeks, Food and Water Watch did a petition drive in Edison and East Brunswick, and in those towns, because they're governed by the Faulkner Act, residents can proactively petition their council to pass or to vote on a piece of legislation. So you just need 10% of the voters sign on to a legally binding petition. So we've done that in Edison and East Brunswick now, and looking to either have those councils approve the ordinance or they'll go on the 2020 November ballot. So
Jump in, just a quick question. So the savings is a routine, or is it just rare that with the more renewable energy you get savings?
So of all the towns that have gone to a higher percentage of renewables than the minimum standard for the state, they're all saving money versus the PSE&G rate.
I guess they're eliminating the nuclear. The nuclear is more expensive, isn't it?
The nuclear is what?
The nuclear power is more expensive. So maybe when they eliminate that, then or where the savings comes from? I'm just.
It's bulk purchasing. So instead of you having the purchasing power of one.
Oh, it's just the bulk based.
Yeah, right. So in Piscataway, who just did theirs last year, Piscataway has 15,000 eligible households. So they were able to negotiate an electricity rate that's based on that sizable purchasing pool, which you can't do with PSEG. The other value of community choice aggregation is they're fixed contracts. So you negotiate up front, you get a price, and it's locked in for the term of the contract. Usually it's 18 to 24 months. Whereas PSE&G, at least once a year, will typically seek to have a rate case where they'll be able to raise their rates before the Board of Public Utilities. They, as you mentioned, they did it recently with the nuclear subsidies that the state gave out to those 3 old reactors in South Jersey. So yeah, we're seeing across the board, the towns that are increasing renewables are still saving money. It's not a guarantee, but that's the goal and that's the aim, and that's across. There's now 11 towns who are doing it, and each of the 11 towns are all saving money, and it's a fixed rate. So it's all done through a request for bid. Basically, the town council would pass some sort of authorizing legislation. They would work with an energy consultant to get bids from renewable energy providers. They select the lowest bid, and then enter into a contract. And the nice thing too is that the town doesn't have to pay for that. The company who wins the bid pays, the consultant rather. So some governments don't want to, especially in a tight budget environment, dole out money to start a program. Well, the nice thing about this is that the consultant fees come from the bidding energy generator, not from the tax base. So, and so I talked about the different ways you can do this. Town councils can proactively adopt an ordinance. We've done some petition initiatives. We did one in New Brunswick, and then in Piscataway, and 2 more in Edison and East Brunswick. Basically triggering a council vote. And yeah, this is just a picture of a bunch of us marching, calling for more clean energy and environmental protection. And we have a text message action. So if you text clean energy to the number 69866, you could sign a petition right to your local representatives from your phone. But yeah, that was the bulk of the presentation. I do want to pause and see, the last maybe 7 minutes or so, if there's any questions or thoughts.
Hi, this is Robin. Can you hear me?
Yes, Hiram.
Hi, Matt. I apologize. I missed the beginning. What's the difference between getting Franklin to do this and me individually having chosen to use Clean Choice for my energy and using renewables that way?
So the big thing is the bulk purchasing power. So when you go to Clean Choice, you have the purchasing power of one. The town aggregates energy on behalf of all eligible households, and typically we're seeing the rates are far more competitive under a scenario where the town is bulk buying for 15,000 households versus one household going to an energy provider.
Okay. Currently, my rate is cheaper than the ones you're showing for New Brunswick and others, but I think I understand the principle. Now, does the town have to commit to a certain number of households, or do they first go out, see who's interested, then they hire a consultant and then go out and look for bidders?
No. So the consultant does like what's called an energy profile. They'll see how much electricity, how many households there are, what kind of electricity use there is, how many of those households are currently with the third provider already. And then with that energy profile, they'll go out to request bids. So, that's all done. And again, you can stay with, a current third party, you could stay with PSE&G. There's no one's forcing you, but for the residents who do want to participate, they can. And, the other thing is, I don't know if Clean Choice offered you a fixed rate, but oftentimes they'll offer an introductory rate that's enticing, and then it goes variable after a certain period of time.
I'm able to get 12-month contracts, but they're 12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a question also. I have solar on my roof.
Yes.
And I'm generating more power from the solar cells than I take in from public service. So I get money back like every August.
Yeah.
And that's happened the last 5-6 years that I've had the solar cells. Where do I fit into that? Because I'm already generating my own power to a great extent.
Yeah. If there was ever a period where it was really cloudy, I don't know if you've ever used grid power over the past since you got the panels, but if you opted in, whatever small usage you did use would come from renewables. But really at this point, the program is mostly for people who can't afford to put panels on their home or don't have ideal sunlight conditions, but they could still get electricity from clean sources through the community program.
Matt, who promotes this in the town? Do you provide materials and things to help get the town interested, or is that something that would fall to us or the township?
So we partnered with New Brunswick and Piscataway and did a big educational push ahead of the passage of the legislation. And we continue to update our members, but from there, it's really the consultant. So in Piscataway, they're using Good Energy, and New Brunswick is using the same company. And so again, that's all part of the cost, but they conduct the outreach. They've done informational sessions online. They do the letters, the opt-in letters. They created a website so that residents can go and learn more about the program. They do all the marketing, communications, and administration.
That's the consultant. And you said the consultant is paid for by whom?
By the energy company themselves, who gets the winning bid.
Okay, so it's kind of retroactive. After all the work's been done, then the winning bidder pays those expenses.
Well, you select the winner, and you select the winning bid, and then they sort of implement like a window where they would then do the work to.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, I have one question. I don't know if there's an average time from discussion until everything is in place, but what are we talking about in terms of a timeline?
I've seen it as quick as like 6 to 9 months,
Wow.
start to finish. So if Franklin Township had, pass authorizing legislation this summer. I would say, definitely at some point in 2021, and you might be able to get it in like the first 3 to 6 months of the year.
And Matt, are all of these companies certified green renewable?
Yeah. So they have to meet the state standards for renewables. So, in New Jersey, it has to be class 1 renewables, and that's solar, wind, geothermal, tidal, small scale hydro. It does not include things like class 2 renewables in New Jersey includes some small portion of nuclear and of trash incineration. Obviously, those aren't really clean or renewable, so they're not in the program that we've designed, the authorizing legislation that we've designed.
Matt, just as you mentioned at the beginning that residents are automatically opt-in. If they don't want to, they have to opt out. But
Correct.
for the commercial, they have to opt in because by default they are opt out, right?
Yeah, and that's just the law. That's the state law requires it that way.
And so to this end, some residents, and obviously Robin is among them, they have already chose their own third-party provider.
Yes.
If people have the third party, do they lose them, or it's
No.
just okay? So they automatically opt out of the community program then.
Yeah, so they don't actually get opted in. That would be the one exclusion to the rule. So anyone who's with the current base utility would be default opted in and can always opt out at any time, either before the program starts or whatever month they decide. Anyone with a third-party provider is excluded from the default opt-in.
It'd be nice if they at least get the notice that they have an option.
Exactly. They get the ability to opt in at any time.
The rate might be better and you might feel better about it. Okay. And the fact that you can buy up to 100%, I think is really appealing.
Yeah. So New Brunswick did like a 50% and a 100%.
Offering.
They have 2 tiers, right?
Yeah.
We've gotten a request from some of the public to make some comments. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unmute all of the public. So hang tight. I'm unmuting all of you. I believe Michael Bell, you had the first question.
Yes, I still see that I'm muted here.
I unmuted you.
We can hear you.
You can? Okay. All right, that's good. Yes, my name is Michael Bell. I want to inject a note of caution here about this supposedly renewable energy. All of these energy aggregation companies who advertise clean energy products, in fact, buy their power from the same companies that generate power throughout what's called the PJM grid, which feeds us. It goes as far west as Illinois and down to parts of Maryland and even a little bit of Tennessee, I believe. Now, they bid on power day before and on 15-minute increments, and they buy it from the cheapest supplier they can. Quite often, that is dirty fossil fuel. So how do they turn it into green energy? They do this by the purchase of something called RECs, Renewable Energy Certificates. These are certificates which producers of renewable energy somewhere, most probably in the far west of our region, PJM, or in Texas, through wind power largely, but a little bit of solar as well. Every megawatt hour that they produce of renewable energy, they produce a certificate which you can sell on the market for a remarkably cheap price. So all of these aggregators buy these RECs, and suddenly a megawatt of dirty power gets turned into a megawatt hour of clean power by spending about $9.
I'm just going to jump in real quick. I have solar in my house, and the SRECs are something that you as a person who may be leasing or financing solar can actually use to get back some money for the energy you're producing.
That's what we are doing.
it's
yes,
not
that's
just,
definitely
We are selling the renewability of it.
right. So
right.
it's not just necessarily, big oil out west.
No, it's not
That
big
we are
oil, it's
giving
wind
some,
producers, but it's not changing the actual power that you get in your house at all. In fact, if you look at the environmental impact disclosures by all of these companies, it is exactly the same or worse than PSE&G because they have to buy the cheapest power they can in order to buy the RECs as well. So there's no change in the power you get. Only it's been turned from something rather dirty gray into something green by the purchase of a REC for power that was used somewhere else. And I want you to be very careful about entering into this. Doing solar yourself is fine. Selling the SRECs is fine. That's your benefit. But I'm just saying that these organizations who offer you clean power bring exactly the same or worse power than PSE&G and simply paint it green with a REC.
Well, it's a valid concern, and that practice does exist. What our legislation does, and what we would want to educate the council and find a consultant who would agree with this is make sure that just like the folks in Franklin are generating RECs from the actual production of renewable energy, that the CCA would purchase and select the winning generator from a company who's doing the same thing, not from a company who is selling fossil power and buying RECs on the open market, but someone who is generating RECs from their own clean energy and then providing those RECs to communities. So it's actually facilitating increased renewables.
I think that's
Most
what
of these do
certified-
not have their own power generating facilities. They are simply buyers of power from generators, and they also buy the RECs. So they buy cheap power, buy a REC, clean power suddenly. But the actual power you get is coming from the same fossil fuel sources. And that's a problem. RECs were supposed to cure this, but they have not.
Well,
they've been around for years, but they.
As I said, there's two different kinds of RECs. There's bundled and unbundled, and you don't want to go with the unbundled because you're right. Then it can just be a way to sort of like green otherwise dirty energy. But the bundled requires that it's coming from the actual generators themselves. And the programs that we've done, like the one in Piscataway, the RECs are coming from a bundled source, meaning that the actual generator, the company is, I believe it's Energy Harbor, is producing the renewables and getting the RECs associated with those renewables. And therefore, by purchasing those bundled RECs, we are shifting our money away from investing in the gas and nuclear plants and reactors in New Jersey and into companies who are putting clean, renewable electricity onto the grid. And so you're right, you can't control the electrons. It's not that the electrons from that solar farm or wind farm are coming to Franklin, but it's what are we choosing to pool our collective ratepayer money into? Fossil plants and nuclear plants or clean renewable sources.
Well, if you look at their EID, I'll bet you find that the actual power that they buy is exactly the same as PSE&G supplies already. I'm not supporting PSE&G. I'm just saying that we're not doing any better.
Can I kind of connect to what you are saying? Is this community solar project? Because I think that's much more powerful, because that means that you are actually investing into a component of the larger solar project, and you claim that this is the energy that you are using, because this is actual physical facility that you are vested in. And I think it's much better than the community aggregation that has this stuff behind.
Well, the thing with community aggregation is all it does is create a mechanism by which the township or county, depending on the level of government, can pool ratepayer resources and procure renewables from multiple different avenues. So you don't have to meet it through RECs. I think that there's a big difference between the bundled RECs that that Jessica and others are generating in the unbundled. But if you wanted to go and contract directly with the power company, you can do what's called a virtual power purchase agreement. And therefore, you know that directly your money is going into the construction and operation of new renewable energy capacity. The thing with community solar,
Yeah,
right,
community solar is different. Yeah.
I know it is. Right now, the state of New Jersey is still in a pilot program. And
Yes.
unless you're selected by the Board of Public Utilities to win a pilot, you can't do community solar yet. So we're still a few years out from that. But at whatever point Franklin can do community solar, the community choice aggregation can help and partner with that. So you could, after a 2-year power purchase agreement, you could then use a portion or all of your ratepayer resources to develop a community solar farm. And there's examples of CCA programs all over the country that are doing that, in Massachusetts, in California. And so there's sort of evolution of where this can go. Because I agree, the more local the generation, the better. You're getting more job creation, more ownership of the assets, and more improvements in air quality.
Matt, a question. When you say you can use your CCA resources to invest in community solar, what are those resources? You mean the cumulative
Yes.
rates you collect?
Aggregated ratepayer resources, right? So the ability to aggregate those and channel them to the kinds of energy that you want to procure or develop is the real power of CCA. Yep.
Michael, thank you for your comments. It's helpful for us to be a lot more aware.
Yeah, there's definitely pitfalls. There's ways to do it right, and there's ways to do it wrong. So you do want to make sure that you are recommending a particular set thing to the council, that they pass the legislation that they want and reflects the values of the town and what the town wants to do, and then you get a consultant that is going to be back to that and finding the ways that you want to in year one and move the advance the program in subsequent years.
I would caution against consultants as well, because they are paid by the people who will eventually end up getting your money. No one knows what the deals are between these consultants and the companies they represent when they go out to bid on behalf of townships. I've watched Princeton go through this recently in a community choice program, and frankly, I think they've been had. The actual power that they're going to get is dirtier than PSE&G, and yet it's painted bright green by all of the advertising and the consultant that they got.
So, by government law, there is no ability to have, kickbacks or anything with the municipal contract. The municipality would have to select by law the lowest bid that comes in. But I think I'm not suggesting that there's no way to do CCA wrong, but I wouldn't base my entire assessment of the program just on how Princeton did it or one town did it. I would look at the full spectrum of townships in New Jersey who are doing it, find a way that you can recommend a specific way to do this with your town council that eliminates at least the unbundled RECs to make sure that the RECs are coming from actual renewable energy generators. And if you're interested in exploring options like a virtual power purchase agreement, that you can build that into your bid. And we'd be happy to work with your council and provide whatever background information they need to feel confident that they are doing it in a right and meaningful way.
Is there a way to find transparency from the bundled sources?
Yeah.
Is there a way to actually go and seek out exactly where your energy is coming from and audit that?
Yes. There's verifiable audit trails with the bundled RECs. That's the problem with the unbundled ones, is you can't actually identify the source. But with the bundled, there's an audit trail directly back to the generation.
If I could interject here, council was interested in this some years ago 4 or 5 years ago, I know, because that was when Raj Sherman was still on council. But we didn't, and the mayor and I and Raj Sherman were much in favor of doing this, but we didn't get a majority of the council, let alone a unanimous council, to support this. So it sort of dropped at that time. My hope would be that if there's a call from the public to do this, that we can get it going again. But that, I think, is what there's going to have to be.
Yeah.
Ted, you saying a call from the public? I mean, showing up at council meetings,
Exactly.
voicing them. Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm just gonna unmute everybody one more time. Does anyone else have any more questions?
The 8th grade graduation. I'm going to that one. Because I had 8th grade.
Any of the attendees?
Oh, at your school? Yeah, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
July 6th. I don't think I'm gonna go to
I'm
that.
gonna take that as a no. All right.
Thank you again, Jessica and everyone. And, you know, I encourage anyone to reach out with any questions. My email address is my first initial M, last name Smith @fwwatch.org. You can find us on Facebook, Food and Water Watch New Jersey. You can message us there. And I know Walter has my contact info as well. So, yeah, let's keep the conversation going. And I agree. We got to educate the public, get them to you know, advocate with their elected officials. And really, I think the great next step would be internal deliberation among the Environmental Commission. But if it is a program that you're interested in pursuing, advisory resolution to the council that sort of prescribes the things that you want to see in the CCA, right? No use of unbundled rec, or avoiding the pitfalls that Mr. Bell was talking about, I think would be an important role for the Environmental Commission to play.
I have two new guests here. I don't know if they have anything that they want to add.
I was wondering what you were doing.
These are two of my neighbors here that they've come for a drink of water.
Stakeholders.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions for them, they're welcome to ask.
Okay,
Really
Matt, before
cool.
you leave, can we post your presentation on our website here? Okay. So find out exactly what we need to do, and we'll have it done so it'll always be a resource. And if there are any updates going down the road, you know, maybe you'll let us know.
That sounds very good. Yep.
Okay.
And we'll
All
stay
right,
in
well,
touch.
All right, we will.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. So I guess if we move on to the next item on the agenda, I guess it's
The website, email, and social media.
yeah.
So we have, oh, it logged me out. Well, I won't log back in on a shared screen, but I will inform everyone that we did not have any emails this week, and I did respond back to the woman who wanted to post the resource about prescription drugs, and I informed her that we were happy with what we had up there. So that's it. And I don't think do we have anything for social media? I think maybe Matt's, do we want to put up Matt's
presentation? Yeah.
Presentation? Is that, so I would need a motion for somebody to take that on.
So moved.
Do we have a volunteer?
So moved, Robin.
Second?
So you're going to volunteer.
No, I move that we accept it. That's fine.
Let someone else do it.
But before we move on, have we updated our goals on the website?
No, I'm working on those, Robin, and by next meeting they should be updated.
Okay.
But
I promise. Okay.
Speaking of our website, I also took a look, and I think that we just there's more to update, I think. And some of the goals are actually related to operation, what we do on continuous basis, and that doesn't need any year to it. and the other portion are projects, right? Projects have beginning and end. So for those, maybe they should get the update. But things like plan review, that doesn't need a year.
Yeah.
That's continuous.
Absolutely.
So, and there are various sections of the website that belongs under Environmental Commission. I also realized that I should update my resume and stuff, but that's not priority. I think eliminating the 2018 is much more important. I think if we just eliminate the year from it, as opposed to changing it to 2020, as a first kind of rescue activity, I think it would be better. And then follow up with more holistic update to the website and actually make a decision who is going to make the update on regular basis. Is it always Bob McQueen, and how do we agree on what to update, what not to update? And
so that it is always Bob McQueen and his team that have to do the updates, and I believe it has to also go through Marianne. So what happens is we would need to motion for something to go up onto the website or into social media, and then whoever's taking charge of that would need to submit it to them to handle. So
Okay.
Rizwan had wanted to do that one social media post. So she was putting together information, but it's not that you just send a link to Bob and go, here, hey, put this up. You actually have to lay it out how you want it to look and everything, and then they'll do it.
And somebody should look at the 18 goals and see which of them are perennial, and we could leave, and which of them might be. I mean, there's something here about support the planned new community garden at Catalpa Park. Well, it was new in 2018. Is that still the appropriate language for today?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
I think it's a general activity. I would leave it as you call it perennial. I would call it operation anyway. And the stream cleanup, right? So that's annual event. So
just reword goal number 1, item number 1. So that
essentially
it's just another park. But somebody needs to look at it that way.
Yeah. Well, I'll take a look at it. We've done this before, and the procedure you are suggesting is pretty much what we've done in the past, but I'll give you a chance to look at it again before we post it.
Is there something in here about the compressor station? We could take that out or something.
Well,
Are you talking about the agenda, or are you talking about the website?
The website under goals for 2018. One says track the Franklin Township resolution against the compressor station pipeline expansion. So somebody needs to look at these and change the wording for those that are ongoing and eliminate anything that's out of date.
That's exactly how it's done. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So thanks for the comments, and we have we should have we'll call an update draft by next meeting, and maybe at some point before the meeting, you all have a chance to look at it and comment again. Okay. Now we go into plan review. We had 2 plans, and we shared them with everybody. And Diane had another meeting. I didn't realize at that time I signed it. So Paul took over a particular one. Verizon, I believe Laurel Avenue. So Paul,
Yes.
you want to give us sort of an explanation and sort of a conclusion regarding that particular one?
Yeah, that is, here's the drawings I see they put up on there, the site plan.
Yeah.
It's a monopole, 128-foot high at the Trap Rock Quarry. They're going to put the fake trees up on the top, so it has the, in the distance, appearance of a big tree. And it takes not much ground space, about 9,500 square feet. That's the fence. But inside there's the base of the tower and a pad that houses an emergency generator. And the emergency generator is there in case there's a grid failure. So you never lose cell service, because then the emergency generator kicks in and keeps power, going on the tower. Under the state regulations, the emergency generator has to run once a month. They do it for like 30 minutes just to make sure it's up and running. And that's an allowed, and it's mandatory. So there is some noise, but I also looked at there are ways to avoid that now. There are some people using solar cells with battery storage, and that eliminates the need for the generator, which runs on diesel. So I think I can put that kind of comment in just to pique their interest a little bit. Yeah.
This is Robin. How
Yes.
about propane as an alternative to diesel? Is it too
It's
big
possible.
a generator? 'Cause
Yeah,
we use-
of course, propane is more expensive than diesel, which is why they'd rather go with diesel.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
but
think
it's,
that's something we could ask of them if they don't.
yeah,
want
we can ask them
solar.
to look at it.
The other side plan, which is in Cedar Grove, they have propane
Yeah.
fueled backup generator.
Wow.
All of
Same
the,
company.
all of the
Put that
diesel,
down. I read over Mark Healy's description and what they want to do. The main thing they're worried about is the site view. And the fact that you can't see it from the canal, which takes the canal out of the decision, but from Rockingham, it's supposed to be visible. And they need a Class D permit, Class D variance. So there are also some trees that are gonna have to come down. And Mark makes the comment in his discussion that, as we would, saying they gotta replace the trees somewhere or pay into the tree fund. But that's what it is. And it's, to my thinking, it's a lot better than having the gas compressor station at the quarry. Linda might not, agree with that, but it's better, from
All
an
of the-
environmental standpoint.
all of the diesel generators, if they're 1 million BTUs or more, are required to have permits with the DEP.
Yeah, they need a general permit. Yeah,
Right, and they are required to have that maintenance schedule when they run them. I guess it's monthly,
yep,
and they generally do them after a certain time in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, before 10 o'clock at night. The decibels allowances are lower. They don't do them after 10 o'clock at night when people are trying to sleep. It's all pretty much in their plan to do those things. And they're all basically all diesel generators.
yeah. So, and there'll be a fence around it to keep people out of the base, that kind of thing. So, yeah, Arnold, I worked on a permit or tried to, for a general permit for a generator. And you can't use it for other things. You can't just run it as a power source. It's only
Right.
for emergency generation.
Right. I remember we talked about that a couple of years ago.
Yep. Yeah. So that's what it's about. And, but I'll put the thing in the propane, I'll put in that as a suggestion, and also to look at the solar cells. Apparently there's a solar field nearby in the quarry already.
Yes.
So, in addition to the solar field though, if you're gonna use it for backup, you need the battery storage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you gotta have that.
So, because the most likely time for a grid failure is during a storm when there's not gonna be much sun. So the solar field needs a significant battery backup.
Excellent, excellent.
So that's the story on this
Okay.
one.
Does anybody want to see any other documents brought up?
If I could just comment, knowing the property, there's one house on the property, but of course the property belongs to Trap Rock. Whoever is living there is just going to have to accept the noise. But if they're off working somewhere and the generator is run at 10 a.m., that won't be a problem. Only if there's a power outage and the generator has to run for quite a period of time. And there's a few houses on Laurel Avenue nearby that probably would hear it, but maybe 3 more houses.
Is there a way we could put a time limit on it and say we could approve it now, but in 3 years, we want them to bring it back because there might be battery storage opportunities in 3 years that don't exist now, and that we could ask them to,
Well, it exists today. It's just that it's maybe not as economical,
Right.
as the diesel. But I would still argue that it's actually maybe better investment. But it's their business, so they have to make the decision.
Yeah, but we're the public. We can comment. Yeah.
The
We'll make a comment. You know.
is feeding the Trap Rock operational headquarters, whereas this is a Verizon project.
Right.
So the Trap Rock solar field is not going to back up.
I was afraid.
No, that's why I said you need additional solar cells.
Right, and they don't have a good area for that. Yeah.
No, because this will be in the middle of woods.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all. The other plan has that opportunity. We'll get into that.
Okay.
As far as the noise, again, if it's an emergency situation, it's possible they are exempt during that, as far as noise is concerned, during the use, during an emergency. But as far as during the testing period, they should not be exempt as being too loud. During daytime, they can't go over 65 decibels on complainant's property.
well, let's at least try for the propane because that would probably be less loud than the diesel. And you said they have to do that for the other one, so, or are doing it.
Because it's close to the pool,
Right. But if they can do it there, maybe they could do it here.
Okay. Well, thanks, Paul.
Okay, I'll write it up to Christine. Yeah, I'll take this one.
All right. And so, Stan, you have the other one.
Yes.
Rhode Avenue.
Jessica, do you want me to present, or you will just scroll through them?
I don't have to, you can present, hold on.
Because you did it well, essentially.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But you're welcome to present. You are now, I am passing you my privileges.
Okay, now I have to recall. What do I press?
Down below, you'll see a little rectangle with an arrow pointing up. That is share content.
Going to share this one.
There you go.
Okay, so yeah, the same company, Verizon, right? And the same project is cell tower. And so, do you see my mouse?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Cedar Grove Lane, and here is a swimming pool. These are tennis courts. This is parking lot, and site location here. Okay, and this is all wood, wetland, and there is no residential area until this. What is this? Willow. This is Willow, and here is another residential complex. This is pretty far. The closest is the pool, I want to say. So I can scroll up, and it's kind of slow response. And so Ted had a very interesting comment because apparently the parking lot. Let me scroll through some meaning. The parking lot is here, right? Now, actually, I don't know who owns the property.
Cedar Hill Swim Club.
Yeah, so they own it, and so they put a parking lot that apparently was not approved, the size of it. Am I right?
Well, that parking lot probably went in 50 years ago, 55 years ago.
So what the Verizon is proposing is to decrease the size. Let me scroll. That's not good time. Here is another area, in another picture. These are the parking spaces. There's one pool, another pool, and here this little corner, the little square, this is where the tower would be, and this is the scale. And here is the magnification of the site. There will be further magnifications there, but so in the center, this is the tower. This oval thing is the propane tank. This is the power generator. There is some other stuff here. And so they're asking for variance.
Stan, is this a monopole or a tower?
It's a monopole. Call it monopole. Let me scroll through.
Ted, didn't this come before the planning board a year or two ago?
I don't think so. Not that I remember.
This nice picture of how the tower is supposed to be look like, and they actually want to paint the tower brown, and they so
We have one by us, and that's what it looks like. It looks like a tree.
I haven't seen that, but from the scheme it looks pretty cool, you know. Somewhere, I think it was above, was a nice table. I will keep scrolling down back up. Yeah, I think, yeah, I want to go back up. There is a nice table with what variance, and essentially, so everything is good. The variance is in the radiation, and I think it's also very formal. Be here, yes.
Bulk requirement.
Jump away. District. Okay, so this is district ordinance. Yes. So everywhere here in this section, it is all compliant. No problem. This is existing. This is proposed, and here this is maximum impervious coverage from 9.2 to 9.4. That's nothing. Wireless ordinance. So one value is off. Minimum setback, all lot lines. Supposed to be double of the height. The height of the tower is 126 feet, so it should be 252, but they have 48.5. And I think the 48.5 is pretty much this distance. See it? And there is 4 is here, nothing. And I think that for that reason, I think it's quite easy to give them the green light for that. The distance from here to there would be probably 250.
So essentially they're giving up parking. Is that what this is, Stan?
I don't know exactly the story about the parking, and this is actually what we need to ask, because what do they mean by decreasing the parking lot size when the project area is here, right? So I'm not quite sure what they are talking about.
I think it has to do with the level of review by the DNR Canal Commission. You know, it's one peculiarly bureaucratic situation. One point I would make that the applicant is probably not aware of, you're probably not aware of, is that the property just to the east of it, which is all woods, is proposed to have a pocket park there with swings and it's referred to as a grandparents' park where grandparents and grandchildren could go from the development on the other side of Willow Avenue. And Councilman Galtieri is pushing this. Now, I think that would be not right up against it, probably a little to the north of it, but
Are these 5G towers or are these 4G?
Didn't get that far to figure it out.
I know there are people very concerned about 5G in England. I don't know if it's justified or not, but might we run up against that here, especially if there's a playground next to it?
I think that 5G towers are going to be much smaller, but more of them.
That's what I thought too. So
I don't know how I know.
maybe we could just ask for clarification. Does it say on here?
Yes, I think it's a good. Is somebody making notes or? We need to submit those comments to. So this is a good comment. And speaking of the diesel slash propane generator, so in this case it's propane. I think it's because of the pool and stuff. But in this case, you know, they could put solar panels here, and it would be a reasonable distance, and to have the battery bank either here or probably here. The calculation would have to get in place because the power of the generator is 30 kilowatts, and this is insane. It's a lot of energy. And if you want to deliver 30 kilowatts from battery bank, then and probably for 24 hours at least, so that would be a few Teslas.
Yes.
So that's a lot of energy.
Well, I think the problem with solar power plus battery backup is if the grid is out for 6 days, that'll far exceed what the batteries can do.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be as a one system, right? So the solar system would be feeding the battery, and if the grid goes down, it will be island, and it would be generating the energy for the battery pack. Yeah. Whether it would be enough, I don't know. Probably, I think so, because that area to be covered with the canopy, solar canopy, would be substantial.
You could put it over the parking lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's a good investment. These days, it's cheap. You know, of course, it's an added complexity for them, but as a means of being more resilient against power outage, you know,
might be worth it.
They'd be prepared for the future. And swim club people might love to have their cars under shade.
Oh, absolutely. So it's a good comment to give them.
Yep.
Okay, Stan.
I think this is it. I mean, I like the shape. Actually, from the shape of those towers, can we tell whether it's 4G or 5G? Ted, you mentioned that.
I don't know.
I think it must say something on here, don't you?
Well, I'm not sure.
It has to do with the antennas and such.
You probably should get.
Can I search this PDF file?
You probably should get informed about 5G, just to be ready for the future.
No.
And any health consequences.
It's a picture. I cannot search the text. I mean, one way or another, you get radiation, you know, so. And I don't quite understand. This is another image. Some of the trees will stay. Some of them will be relocated. I don't know what do they mean by relocating a tree. And some of them will be sacrificed, of course.
You go up and replant them somewhere else.
Well, I'll do them.
Okay.
The roots and everything, I don't know. I guess it's possible.
What?
Details.
Maybe Mark Healy knows whether they are 4G or 5G. So might not have to go far to get information.
Well, the applicant will know.
Yeah. Of course he does. All right.
Ted, when is this going to be heard? Is it the zoning board or the planning board?
It would be
tomorrow night.
Ah.
Thursday night.
Thursday night. I'll get my comments in tomorrow.
Okay, Thursday.
Well, I know the Laurel Avenue one is being heard Thursday. I'm not dead sure this is, but.
Okay.
And incidentally, on the Laurel Avenue Tower, historic, well, not actually the historic commission, but Robert von Zumbush of Kingston Village Advisory Committee objects strongly to the fake tree and would prefer a monopole. And actually, the relevant picture taken from Rockingham, you just barely see that crane between trees and sort of a gap in the trees. So it's only barely visible. But I agree, I'd prefer a monopole to a fake tree.
I thought that they used the monopole in the terminology.
Yeah, because it doesn't have it's not a grid structure going up. But in Mark's report, he explored the historical relevance of the one in Trap Rock and said it was not in a historic area. And I don't know about the one here in Cedar Grove Lane, but he discussed that in his report, Mark Healy.
There's a provision in our cell tower ordinance that says that the tower should not be visible from a state or national historic site,
Right.
which Rockingham is. And that's why they need the variance, actually.
Yeah.
Monopine. So it's monopine with vertical concealment.
There it is, monopine, yeah.
At high, so not monopole, it's monopine.
Oh, this would be.
Pine instead of.
It's still, our type is monopole, and it says yes, monopole. You see? Yeah. So
That's a monopole tower type, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so I think I need to stop sharing.
You know, and going forward, certainly if we ever get back to, you know, around the table we're going to still have to, I think the electronic sharing is much better than the big maps and everything all over the table. So we'll think about that.
Well, we can do, Stan, I'm going to take away your privileges.
Oh.
We can do that in that remember when we were going through the ordinance and I had my laptop and we were able to look at documents on the big
that conference room. Yeah.
If there's a way for them to do that in council chambers, we can certainly do that.
That's right.
But of course, the plan is a lot bigger than your screen. You can't really read much on the plans on the small screen.
Well, that depends how they're scanned. That's the quality of the scan. But we could in conceptually they really could do a much better scan, and then you could have both there. It's big on the screen, and then people could, if they would rather have a more tactile experience, then they can look at it. Hold on, I'm gonna share my screen. Share. And I'm going to go back to
agenda. Okay, good. So thank you, Stan. And so next on the new business is Franklin Day, 9/12/20. I guess we should begin to think about what we're going to do. You know, we're going to. But a lot of it would depend on how they're going to manage, you know, the 6 foot and where they're going to have masks and how many people are going to be allowed at any time.
Walter, do we know if there will be a Franklin Day? Maybe that's the first thing to find out.
At present, they're planning.
That's what I brought up earlier, was that we don't know.
Well, the reason why we have the date, because when I was investigating what the possible date for the river cleanup replacement, I wanted to make sure that we don't clash. So I asked them, hey, do you, by the way, have a plan? And they said 12. Yeah. So I was quite surprised. Now, maybe it's a place mark. You know, I didn't prompt them any further.
Okay.
But you know, if it's going to be technically difficult to implement, I don't think they're going to carry.
Maybe.
All right, well, then maybe what we need to do is confirm, and with some details. And before we commit, to how we're going to be a part of this, if it's going to be at all. Because I was a bit surprised. Really.
Must have a drop dead date by which they will decide.
Yeah.
That we need to find out again.
Do we know that? Ted, do you know that?
I don't know. I know only from seeing Stan's correspondence
Yeah.
about the stream cleanup. That's how we found out.
I motion for Stan or Ted to find out what the drop dead date is for.
I have no issues communicating further because since I got response, which was very good, given my complaint from the last year, Franklin Day Festival when they scooped me with the electric auto, but no, I think it's an opportunity for me to improve the relationship.
Okay, Stan.
So
You're it then, and we're, whether you want to communicate it to us, online before or whatever, but we'll be looking to you for
yes.
information. Okay. If you go on to old business, there's Boy Scouts is sort of a placeholder because one of the
Walter, I had a late addition to new business. I don't know, some of you
yeah,
email.
I did.
If I could briefly just address that.
Sure, go ahead.
So I received a phone call today and then an email from a friend, and I'm going to briefly read it to you. It doesn't take much time. It says, I'm interested in the history and ownership of the land by the Wetlands Creek that runs alongside the underground petroleum pipeline here in town. Just curious, as I have sometimes walked this photograph the wildlife. The pipeline runs from Piscataway under the Raritan, the canal, and Eastern Avenue on the Franklin side of southbound Brook border. The wetlands and the pipeline run together and cross 287 following Dayton. I wanted to know if there was any access to the wetlands and who is responsible for maintaining it.
What state did you pick?
This small parcel of land is a haven for deer, fox, raccoon.
That's not our town.
It is a part of it is our town. Deer, fox, raccoon, woodchuck, and many species of migratory birds. There seems to be recent activity. And the part that I thought was interesting that it could tie into our stream cleanup, because he says the site also seems to have a dump at this time, has been a dump at some time. The wetlands and creek area have some old tires and construction debris is visible. This wetlands to the Raritan and perhaps can be remediated. Anyway, I was just curious and know you will be able to
hit the maps.
Well, I would think the first thing would be to go to the construction code planning office and look at the tax maps, and he should be able to figure out from that what lot covers the wetlands in question.
This is it, yeah.
And then he can if it's still in Franklin.
Where exactly? Like what's the exact point?
It's the best to find out who.
You gotta go up east and go north further.
Yeah, well, you can see it as that darker band across the picture below where it says St. Andrew Memorial Church.
And St. Andrews is in Franklin.
Yeah. Okay.
The whole Ukrainian the whole Ukrainian property there is part of Franklin.
Yeah. It probably belongs to the Ukrainian church.
They don't care.
Right, right. But the part of the question I think is walking along that stream, and is there a right of way? Um, is he walking on private property? Is it property owned by the Ukrainian church? But also the fact that in that area, it appears there's been substantial dumping over the years, which brings me to
Yes.
an area we want to look at as far as a stream cleanup.
Potentially, yeah. I would like to visit it in person.
I would like to visit in person sometime also. Stan, if you want to, maybe sometime you and I and my friend Steve can figure out a time.
Remember also that between Raritan and that thing is the whole canal, and
Here's the
whatever
canal.
garbage it tends to stay before it enters the river, which doesn't give a
That's
justification.
Main
but-
Street, so gotta go to the left.
Trying to go to Zillow because I know that Zillow has a nice map.
So they're saying the dumping's happening like right on this side of it into the canal.
I'm not sure if it's in the canal, that's state property. So I'm not 100% where that's what needs.
Yeah, where that's what I'm trying to figure out is where is he saying
Here's
this
Davidson.
dumping
Okay, he says it comes along Davidson.
So it might be the best bet for us to take a walk over there. And once we determine where exactly it is, then we can make a determination as to whether it is in Franklin or not. And whose property, who owns the property.
Where I'm trying to figure out where he's seeing dumping.
Yeah, I can't tell you that. I mean, it's a very general description. But Stan, would you want to take a walk?
Yes, you need to make
No
steps
masks,
every day.
please.
Well, no. When I'm outside, I don't. Sorry.
Pardon
Wear
me?
a mask. Be appropriate.
No, I'm just when I'm outside, I don't wear the mask. I just keep the distance. That's all.
So Stan, why don't we stay in touch and figure out a date that we can get over there?
Yeah.
I know you're working, so we'd work around with you. I'm retired. My friend is semi-retired.
Right now, I'm not actually even working, but that's a separate issue.
Okay, so
Actually, I'm very busy. I'm so busy.
Arnie, I'm going to reach out to you about walking at 3 Mile Run where it meets 27.
yes, we had talked about that
Yeah.
also. Right. I need to get my steps in.
Okay. I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
It's a little bit difficult to get to that area. I understand this guy because you have to go through the Ukrainian church area or from the St. Andrew or whatever.
Well, we could start it where my friend lives, because I imagine because he does this walk and he would know the ins and outs of it.
Mhm.
So he
Okay.
all right.
All right.
I'll keep in touch with you and my friend, and we'll see what we can work out. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Fantastic.
And I will also wait to hear from Robin.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So that was a new item under new business, and so we have an approach to, I guess, moving forward on that. Now, if we go down, we shouldn't be able to stay around here very long, but except on the one-use plastic ordinance, I've heard some suggestions that maybe we need to have a special, plastics-only meeting to resolve or finalize the Environmental Commission's, I call it version.
Yeah, I would like to motion that we have a meeting dedicated purely to this, just because it is
did have extra meeting in, what is it, March, or when was it?
We wanted to, and then we didn't give it, there wasn't enough notice given to the public, so we couldn't do it.
I would support that motion. It just, we get too weary after a certain point, and this deserves our full attention.
Like now it's 8:30 at night. And nobody wants to go through this right now.
No.
No matter how important it is.
All right. Do we want to set a date now or work it out later?
A logical date would be June 29th. And
June 29th?
we have 5 Mondays in June.
Okay.
I do have a question. Jessica sent out the most recent rendition with revisions. I'm not asking people to comment on it, but have you had a chance to review it?
I did.
I have not.
I did.
I did not make it a priority because I figured we weren't looking at it tonight.
Oh, I haven't seen.
It's a safe bet, Robin. It was a safe bet.
Well, the key is to be able to, that everybody reviews it
Beforehand.
before we meet on
Agree.
what we decide on.
One thing I do think it's important to bring up, and Stan, I'm sure you probably want to bring this up, is the subject of, are they going to really use this? Are they going to look at it? You know, I know that's been the subject of.
Did have this concern because before coronavirus, right? Council was like, okay, you guys do whatever, we will go with Reynolds text. And then that's where the idea of the resolution came from, right? But then it means that it doesn't make sense to do both. Right?
So
yeah.
Here's a thought. A lot of times when there's, contracts or things sent out, there's a summary page or like a note page, and just as a quick look at what's in there. So maybe the solution is we do our ordinance, we get all of our details in here in our special meeting, but then we also do a quick summary page to accompany it, which is in the, goes
intro of some sort, right?
And then that just has the bullets they look for, and then we have all the other detail behind it. So not only does it provide them what they want, but then it also has a supporting document to go with it. That was Arnie and I both were sort of feeling that was a nice solution to that quandary.
It could be in the cover email that we send the
Council.
Ordinance. Yes.
Yeah, but no matter what, it's always difficult to make this decision. What should be in the current ordinance today? What should be in the future? And all the processes, who will do this, who will do that, the enforcement, the advertisement. And then Robin mentioned that in Jackson, they had portion of the fee from the paperback that goes back to the retailer, but portion goes to the budget of the town to make the whole promotion,
Educate. Yeah.
to educate. And I think for the town of our size, it makes only sense. It's not like a Highland Park, right? So it's a very good comparison. Highland Park is small, and they have completely different population, much more amenable to work on, to accept the change. So, and we want to make a step further. How do we make sure that people follow through and make excuses like, oh, I'm the COVID, So this is going to be difficult, but needless to say, we have to push it in one way or another.
That's where this section of enforcement comes in.
Okay. So the latest, I'll call it from Arnold.
Sorry, Walter, I meant to mute Arnie and I muted you.
Oh, okay. I would say,
Power of the chair.
Arnold, the latest comments or review by you and markup is available to everyone for everyone to read. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Both the clean and this is the red line version that shows every single edit that was made.
All right.
The clean version is easier to read and only has the comments. So, so if you're, so that's what you look for. The red line is going to show you every single edit that was made,
Okay.
and the clean is just easier to read.
Okay.
And there were some formatting changes, but again, they're immaterial. If we needed to change those back, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Ted, I know you had sent me an email about it might not be legal for us to have a 20% fee and have 10% of that be dedicated to education.
I've been told that somehow or other it concluded that the money would collectively have to all go to the store. But that's something for Lou Raynham to worry about.
Okay, good. I like that answer. Because
So Jessica, when we review this on whatever date that we designate specifically for this, which document are you going to be putting up on the screen?
I can go back and forth between both. That's a non-issue. Like I can easily do some sort of like split
you
screen
can do a split
where
screen.
you've got
Okay.
both next to each other. I encourage people to read it. You know what I mean?
Mark it up.
Read it and look through it. I mean, I'm probably not going to have the font very big if I'm doing a split screen.
You turn off the dog.
You good dog.
So how about I move that we have a dedicated meeting on the 29th to review our version of the ordinance
I second that.
to finalize it. And
Okay.
as part of that motion, just to be clear, do we have a meeting on July 6th, the Monday of the July 4th weekend?
No,
So we wouldn't meet again until the third Monday in July, right?
So it actually makes sense that we have a meeting on the 29th.
My point.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because then it's just every other week. Yeah.
right. Okay, so I move we meet on the 29th dedicated to this, and then our next regular understanding that our next regular meeting would be the third Monday in July.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, unfortunately, on the 29th, I have a JFK Club Executive Committee meeting at 7:30. And I would really like to be involved in this conversation.
Whoa.
The JFK Club cannot be rescheduled.
No. 30th, that next day.
I could do that.
we could,
Yeah.
I can't do a Tuesday. I can only ever do a Monday.
Ooh.
Could we do,
How about the 22nd?
A week from now.
is that enough
I
notice?
can, it just depends.
As far as the public is concerned, yeah.
I don't think we have time to get it properly noticed for the 22nd.
You mean for the public?
Yeah,
For the public, Ted?
well, that was the problem the last time we tried to have a special meeting.
Right, we tried to do it too quickly.
Well, there's
Yeah.
48 hours notice is needed, so all you need to do is let them know tomorrow. If they can't get it done in 5-6 days, I mean, that's a problem with the township.
Yeah,
Well, they couldn't last time, so.
Well, why don't we try for the 22nd? And if they get it done, then we'll have to figure something else out, unless there's some other reason that we can't do it the 22nd.
We set up the alternate day. So let's say that we try
30th?
22nd. Okay, and if it doesn't work, we should make the plan B now.
How about the 30th?
Yes.
It is a Tuesday. I
Make it
can
on
do
the
a
30th.
Tuesday.
I mean the 1st, July 1st.
And I cannot make it because I have Central Jersey Electric Auto Association, which I'm leading, so no way.
All right.
I can only ever do a Monday.
If we did it on the 29th at 5:30, would that be feasible? Or 5
That-
o'clock?
If it's done by 7:30,
If we did it the 29th at 5 PM, could people do that?
I could do that.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Yes,
think we should-
actually. Yeah.
I think I could do that. I mean, I could do it. I think that it's not going to take 2.5 hours so that it'll bleed into
No.
30.
No.
So,
Also half an hour for dinner.
You guys won't need to eat. You're doing a good citizenry.
Your meeting is also remote, right? With the Kennedy stuff.
dinner's overrated. So 5 o'clock on the 29th would work for me. How does it work for everybody else?
It works for me.
Works for me.
It's good for me.
That would work for me too.
All right.
Let's do it.
Wonderful. All right.
All right, so who, Walter, do you tell?
I have to ask, I guess I clear it through Anne Marie and all that. And, she says this is a virtual meeting. It's not like we have to have a space, but I think we still have to go through her.
Yeah, but you still have to do the noticing.
Yeah. Okay.
So do we go with the primary date 22nd and 29th as alternative, or we'll shoot for the 29th?
I would think the 29th is the
Let's shoot for the 29th at 5 o'clock.
Good.
Yeah.
5 or 5:30?
5:30, Walter.
5:30? Okay.
5:30.
We'll work fast.
I mean, I can do 5. Can anyone else do 5?
I can do 5.
I'm not really just going right from work to this. I don't have a commute, so it's not a challenge.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad we're there. And so if we can go back real quickly, I think we can work through this.
Well, wait,
On
so we're
the-
doing 5 o'clock or 5:30?
5:30.
So 5:30.
That's the agreed upon time.
Okay.
All right. All right. On the awardee list finalizing, I understand that there was just one name we needed to add, and we should be able to post it. Is that correct, Ted?
I believe so. I mean, it was Diane, I think, brought up
Okay.
that we knew we'd given an award to John Walker for his investigation of groundwater pollution in Franklin Park. And I think that must have been 2007, which is the first year we had the award,
Ah,
because there was no individual listed in the list that we had.
okay.
So let's put him down for the individual award, and I think it's 2007.
Okay. That's good news. Okay.
At least that's what I looked at the list when Diane brought it up, and I figured that was when it was. It was a long time ago, I know.
All right. Yeah, it'd be nice to get that up there because a lot of people have been recognized, and I think when the public comes on the site, it's always good to see things like that. Okay.
Stormwater Basin, I've reached out to Tara, have not heard back, so I'm going to keep
Okay.
digging her cage, and I will let you know what I learn.
All right. Ted,
I've not
Sustainable
been
Jersey.
focused on the gold list for Sustainable Jersey. I was focused on the ordinance, so I don't have an update this week.
Okay. We just covered the plastics. I wanted to make sure that we got that done. So Franklin Times, we're just tracking that. I don't know when the next issue comes out, or if they have ceased publishing, or does anyone know?
I meant
Oh,
to
I
ask
can ask
that,
Safi.
Okay.
No.
Here's a question about Franklin Times. Are there articles at are they at set points throughout the year or the month or the
Well, they call it a winter. They have the spring issue.
Okay, so I think if there's deadlines for these and there's set times that they always come out, they should just be in here. Because I think us doing the guessing game of like, when do we need to get this in is
Yeah.
kind of like, it makes it a line item every time. And then we say the same thing every time.
Right.
but I
So-
think because of COVID, they changed
Yeah.
They
Can I make-
skip the whole issue now.
Can I make a suggestion? Since Stan's going to find out about Franklin Day, maybe Stan at the same time could find out about the Franklin Times? Seems like it would come out of the same
I mean-
office, don't you think?
I actually made a note during the last meeting and just didn't
Okay.
follow, but
I second that.
Okay.
we don't have to move for that.
All right. I believe Paul, the LED lighting application. DPU.
No, I haven't heard anything new.
Okay. Now I know Arnold, you're still working on the Coyote program. Is he still there?
There was
Arnold.
So the notice,
last time there was an update.
There's no update. You
until further notice, until the DEP gets their stuff together. They're just not doing online presentation
Oh yeah.
at this time.
So we can just say until further notice.
That's good.
Okay. All right. Now we've been pushing for underground utilities, and Mark says, well, you know, everybody does it. He seems to imply, you know, maybe the ordinance isn't in order, but we think that it should be should be inked for the town, you know?
is that an ordinance or is that a resolution?
Resolution?
I think ordinance is better. It's more,
Ordinances are binding.
yeah,
Yeah.
ordinance is binding.
Fine. I'm
Let's get our
asking the
plastic bag,
question.
let's get our plastic bag thing delivered and then we can focus on that.
We could do a resolution and then work on an ordinance after that.
Do a resolution asking for an ordinance.
Yeah.
Pardon me, Ted?
Do a resolution asking for an ordinance.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
And in the meantime, if we want to, we can start working on an ordinance also. But get the resolution done first.
All right.
And I would be very curious to know if there are other municipalities in our part of the world that once existing utility lines are damaged to a certain point, in order to put them back, do they have to go underground?
We had that conversation last time.
Well, that's part of the ordinance, right?
Yeah, not to that degree we didn't. Yeah, but that's where I'm wondering if we can, in our own spheres, find out, does that happen in some towns? You know,
Ask Anjac. If anybody knows, it would be Anjac.
You're right.
I don't know who to talk to at Anjac, but if somebody wants to email me contact information, I would be happy to talk to them.
Well, I think you can go directly to the director's office, and she will
Sure.
not handle it herself.
You just address it to info@Anjac and then it'll go
Okay.
whoever
Right.
it goes to.
That's in the booklet that you get. But Ted, will you send that? Make sure that she has that information. Okay.
I guess
Thank you.
the question is, are pre-existing conditions grandfathered?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the point. It would be after significant damage to existing conditions. Because it's significant damage, they're going to invest money. At this time, maybe this is the time to put it underground. That's what I'd like to find out if other towns
To
have
be
that.
defined in some way. Maybe if they have the need to dig, then it would be a time to put everything underground.
Well, I'll see what Anjac has to say.
Okay. Very good. Stan, we have a new date for
We do.
cleanup, right?
So, as we inferred in previous conversation, there was some emails going back and forth between me, Lower Relevant Watershed Partnership, and the Watershed Institute. So we got the date of September 26th. It's a Saturday, the same timing from 9:30 a.m. to noon. And it's a week before Watershed Institute has some sort of, what was the wording?
The big Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest, right? So that's why we couldn't do it on October 3rd. I was contemplating what's the best date because you want to do it as late as possible to increase the chances that society will be opened, but at the same time, you don't want to have the leaves on the ground covering all the garbage.
Yeah,
So
important.
and it's a guesswork. To me, it's a guesswork. So we are set for the September 26th, and we'll see. You know, if obviously if the Franklin Day Festival will carry on, then our event will carry on too. And we are keeping the same space. I mean, venue, series run. It's essentially rescheduling the canceled one from April. So
All right.
we have the same partners on board. We are not engaging in promotion of the event now at present time because don't know yet, but yeah, we have done it before, so we have the process in place.
Very good.
I'd tell Kyle Hauk as early as you can.
They are very flexible. I mean, I told last year this guy and he was like barely responding. Yes, sure. The day before, you know, come over to pick up the pickers, and so I think for them it's routine.
Yeah.
But a good point is that they have to be in the loop. Yes.
Absolutely.
Because technically, I didn't tell them about the new date. Yeah.
Okay.
They need to be told, definitely.
But they know we have an annual stream cleanup, so absolutely. Okay. Thanks, Stan. The stormwater ordinance, green infrastructure. You know, that's sort of a new subject, and I think that's sort of. I think Ted, you were saying that Carl was saying, well, we need to update our ordinance, and the question is, does it start with us, or does we work together, or what?
Well, I think Kyle Hauk will work on it, and Sophie Grovier said she wants to meet with him about this, and he said sure.
Okay.
So I think it's going to happen.
Good. Good. All right. Do we still have? We need to open the meeting up for the public. I guess we did already, but
Well, we opened up the presentation. Hold on a second.
yeah.
No, but it should be open to the public for.
Okay.
Right, we don't have any, they all left.
Yeah.
And it's
I'll make a motion to open to the public.
seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to be open to the public. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Boy.
Okay.
We have no public.
All right.
I'll make a motion to close to the public.
Seconded.
We make a motion to and second to close for the public. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So
All right.
can we improve the process and always ask the host whether somebody is in audience in public, so that it actually makes sense to go through the headache.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel bad. At some point, we lost Seal, and she sent me an email, but I wasn't looking at my email. So I just sent her the invite again, but
Okay.
she said her internet dropped and she couldn't find the invite again. So
Whoa.
I'll make a motion to close to
Adjourn the meeting.
adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
I'll second.
I'm moving second. We adjourn the meeting. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Meeting's closed. Thank you so much.